Thank you, everybody. Claire, the music was great. I could just see, what was his name in the movie where he's riding the horse and singing that first song that you sang? Gordon McRae. He was riding the horse. Well, what a beautiful morning. Yeah. Of course, you guys are too young. You don't know. Let's not forget about it. Great music. Thank you. Thank you, Debbie. Thank you, Celeste, for the reading. I thought that was a perfect reading. I read it yesterday. I thought, wow, this is it. Just lovely. So we're talking about passionately living your purpose out loud. In other words, we've been talking about passion and purpose, and today we're talking about stepping out, living it out loud, shining your light. So a little summary. The first week we were encouraged to identify our passions. And one of the ways we did that is we were told, go back and think about what you liked to do when you were a little kid. What was really fun for you, and what did you always want to do when the time would fly was very fun. And that's the kind of thing sometimes that builds a little fire in us, and we can take that same kind of love of what we did as a little kid and bring it into our adult life. And sometimes then those passions become our purpose in life. So week 2, I talked about connecting your passion with purpose. And I talked about this lady named Mary. And she was kind of a activist, and she wanted to save the earth and do all the good stuff. And she was so excited because she was going to go listen to Julia Butterfly speak. Julia Butterfly was the woman that chained herself to a redwood tree for 700 and some days because the utility company was going to cut it down, so she was saving this tree. And Mary just was in awe of this woman. So she goes to this arena to hear Julia speak, and as Julia was speaking, she ended up chastising the people that were listening to her and saying, you guys want to save the earth, you got all these great ideas, but look at what you're doing to this arena. You throw stuff on the floor. It's a mess. And so she was just, shaking her finger at them. Mary felt bad. She goes home in tears, but she lets these thoughts percolate. She thinks about, what am I doing with my life? And she ends up then starting a recycling company in California and ends up running this recycling company. So she turned that passion into a purpose. And that's kind of what we're talking about this week. Last week, Debbie talked about self-acceptance and how we all have some imperfections, but we can be perfectly imperfect. That, we all have that acceptance. And today we're talking basically about shining our light, stepping out in our purpose. And we all have that light. That light of the very Creator that created everything and everyone is the light within us. And this is what we tell to those guys in Lino Lakes and Stillwater when we go to the prisons. There is a light within you. And no matter how much bad things you've done and how much you've been told what a terrible person you are, that light is still there. Yeah, it gets covered with gunk. We can take that gunk off layer after layer. That light is still shining. And as we tune into this inner guidance, this inner light, it becomes more evident what our purpose is in our life. We're listening to that inner voice. And it's a happy day when we're courageous enough to step out and live with purpose. A lot of people never do that. They go to their jobs, they're making a living, but then they go home and they gotta mow the lawn and they gotta have dinner and take the kids here and there. Never really feel like they're living with purpose. Christian Sorensen is a minister in our movement, Centers for Spiritual Living, and he writes in the Science of Mind magazine quite often. And he said this, without you, infinite potential, and that's with a capital I and a capital P, remains just that, potential. It stays unformed possibility. It is you who is needed by life, with a capital L, for its potential to form. I'm just going to read that without explaining it along the way. Without you, infinite possibility remains just that, possibility. it stays unformed possibility. It is you who is needed by life for its potential to take form. We're here for a reason, and I think part of that reason is to let Spirit have an experience in, through, and as us. Guided by our passions, we have this inner compass that tells us when and where, what it is for us to do. We're guided by that inner passion. It's an inner compass that brings us to a purpose in our life that gives us joy. Now, the fact of the matter is, we only have this opportunity to bring joy into this world for a limited length of time. We all have an expiration date. Every one of us does. And the point is, if we think about that, if we just think about it, if I just have a certain amount of time left to live, how do I want to live it? Do I really want to pay attention to the criticisms that I get through somebody else? Well, so-and-so said this about you. Yeah, I just thought you should hear it from me. I was very happy when I heard this, and I can repeat it to people in circumstances like that. I'm so happy that I learned that what others think of me is none of my business. I don't know, Dee, if you listen to Bob Proctor. We listened to a little Bob Proctor 6-minute, whatever it is. And yesterday, that's just what he said. He talked about that what other people think of it is, let's not waste our time with that. And obviously, when people come to us and say, here's what I think, I'm telling you, that's a good thing. But it's when you hear it third hand that and I think so many of us spend so much time, we want people to like us. So we take to heart every little criticism that we hear. And, perhaps our contribution to life is something that creates a rippling effect. Might not be some great grand thing, but creates a rippling effect, and it does affect other people. I think about my friend Linda's husband Ron, the guy that likes the race cars. He drives these, or he's in another realm now, but he used to drive and buy and race these dragsters with the big tires in the back, and they go a quarter of a mile and they squeal and they're great. And he loved these things. He bought a lot of them and took them to different racetracks in California. And I love that about him. He was so passionate about this. Now, my friend Linda wasn't into it, but he said, well, jump in the RV, come on down to Lake Timbuktu or wherever we're going, and we're gonna go to these races, and you can sit in the RV with the cats, which she did. So it all worked out. But I love that about him. Now, what difference did he make in the big scheme of things in the world? I don't really know, but I do think that what he created for Spirit was an opportunity to have a lot of joy through Ron. He loved that passion. I do believe that that's part of why we're here, to give Spirit a vehicle, to follow our bliss. Ralph Waldo Emerson said, a person should learn to detect and watch that gleam of light which flashes across their mind from within more than the luster of the firmament of bards and sages. There's lots of wise people that we can listen to and we can learn from. But in the end, what's going on in here? What's this telling us? Listening to our own still small voice. And Emerson goes on to say, imitation is suicide. Don't try to do it like everybody else or be perfect in that way or this way. Listen to that still small voice. Be true to yourself. And once we are doing this, once we are embracing the passion and purpose, that thing that has been calling to us, that's when we step into our power. That's when our life really takes on some meaning. I'm going to share a story with you about a woman named Stephanie Germanata. She was born in 1986. And she's bullied through school. She didn't just fit in. She's kind of weird, and people didn't embrace her. But she had a passion. She liked to play the piano. She liked to sing. And so she'd take every opportunity to sing at the open mics and to be in competitions. And she got rejected here and there, just didn't get any support. She ended up with being sexually abused. She ended up with PTSD, just all kinds of obstacles along the way. But she continued to believe and work toward this passion that she had. And of course, we know her today as Lady Gaga. This is where she came from. This is the background she had, and this is the persistence she had. And today, we know she works for a lot of causes like the LGBTQ community, other marginalized groups, mental health issues, women's causes, all kinds of civil rights in general. And she is an excellent example of someone who is passionately living their purpose. Boy, and I just enjoy watching her do that. I mean, she all out, no holds barred. That's who she is. There's a man named Ernest D. Chu, C-H-U, and he wrote a book called Soul Currency. He's now a minister in our movement. Do you know him? Okay, and I think he's still in Fort Lauderdale. He was ordained in 2006. But he started in the investment field. He was a financial advisor. And he wrote this book, Soul Currency. But what he said in this book, I think is meaningful. One of the things he says is, your work is to discover your work, and then with all your heart, give yourself to it. Certainly that's what Lady Gaga does. But how about the rest of us? We know Lady Gaga did it, but what about me? What about you? What are we doing to let our passion and our purpose and apply it in our lives? One of the things, I think it's a good idea from time to time to ask questions of ourselves, to get ourselves thinking and to get us off our butts to do something. One of the things to ask is this: what are you saying yes to in your life? Sometimes I think we're saying yes to things just because we've said yes before. I'm on a committee for 10 years. Yeah, I'm going to the committee meeting again. Got no fire in my belly, but I'm going. How about an organization we belong to? We've been a member of it for 20 years, and where's the fire? It's just a habit. Maybe sometimes we have to stop and think, what am I saying yes to? Maybe it's time to hand over the mantle to somebody that's got a little fire in their belly. How about people in our lives? Do you ever think about this? Are there some people that you hang with and you think, you get home and you I feel like I've been drained. By golly, it seems like every time I'm with that person, I feel drained. What's the upside of that? And a lot of times these people are not looking for a little, oh yeah, make me feel better, give me some ideas to conquer these negativities I'm having in my life. No, they just want to tell you how miserable they are. They're not fun people to be around. And sometimes I think we have to review who are we hanging with, and who do we need to say, I got another thing to do that night. I think it's wash my hair. But we can't make it. But I think that this is something that's very important, to be with people, rub elbows with people that will lift us up. And now, we hang with the prisoners, and even though they've got their problems, and, they're not exactly on top of the world, most of them, yet they're willing, they're open, they want to hear, what can I do to change my life? I'm willing. And they show up. Instead of watching the Vikings games or playing basketball or lifting weights, whatever they do, they show up in this little circle in a kind of a dark, noisy room. We sit in a circle and talk. And they listen, and they try to learn a better way to live. Those people are the people we want to hang with, and I think we have to think about who is not a positive influence in my life, and just be with people that are supportive. And then what about habits? Oh, you know, habits, oh my gosh. I went to see my sister in Arizona in March. Well, of course, the week before I went, I certainly couldn't do my physical therapy exercises or anything else. I had to plan this vacation. I had to get ready to go. Well, the week I'm down there, of course, we didn't do any physical therapy, and I don't necessarily think we ate that healthy of food. And then when I got home, I had things to do. I had to pelly a little ketchup. Geez, after all, I'd been gone for a week and got all these things. Okay, it was March, April, May, June, July, August. What do you think kind of habits I've established in the last 5 months? Unbelievable. I have to say, I'm beating myself up. And I don't like it, because what happens after a while, not only do you start to put on weight, when I don't exercise, this stuff gets a little tricky. You know, sometimes I get a little grouchy, a little down. Oh, life, I got to get up again. I got to do this. That's what happens when I don't exercise. So I was telling Debbie, I actually wrote this down during the week. I wrote down, I'm going to call somebody at CSL and just say, hey, I'm thinking about, let's do a little group here at CSL Minneapolis to support each other in this, in physical, keeping healthy, eating right, maybe some, and I don't know how to do it. I don't. Your passion or a higher calling? What are you saying yes to in life? And is that in line with your... So I think sloth isn't in alignment with anything. You know, being lazy, putting on weight, not doing what you... That's not in alignment with anything good. So I do think that that's a good question to ask, what we're saying yes to. Is it in alignment with my higher calling? And then this is the one I really, really like, and I do this from time to time. If you had only a month to live, how would you prioritize your life? And of course, like a lot of things, when I want answers, I go to listen to country western music because they have a lot of answers. And there's a song particularly that I like by Tim McGraw. I think it's called "Live Like You Were Dying," and it could be a million years old. I don't know how old it is, but the point is, the song is like Tim McGraw knows this guy. He's in his 40s, and he's just gotten this terminal diagnosis. So he says to him, "Oh, how did it hit you? What'd you do?" And the guy says to him, "I went skydiving. I went Rocky Mountain climbing. I went 2.7 seconds on a bull named Fu Manchu." But then he also said, "I loved deeper, and I spoke sweeter." And he said, he forgave people that he had been withholding forgiveness from. And then he said, "And I hope sometimes you have a chance to live as though you were dying." I think we all have that chance if we just, it's something we can pay some attention to. Another thing is, a question to ask is, what can I do today to seize the day? I guess I forgot to mention about that. I forgot a whole page here. Anyway, that was about That was about the movie with Robin Williams, Dead Poets Society. Who said that? Anyway, good, good call. Anyway, Robin Williams played this this professor, and what he was trying to teach his students, he was trying to teach them to be independent, to think independently, to tune into their own passion and to live that way. Seize the day, in other words. I gotta find my notes. That was a good piece here. Oh, yeah. Getting out of our comfort zones. And that brings me to, boy, this is a chunk here. This is the book we're using at Lino Lakes with the prisoners on Tuesday nights. It's a book by Roger Teal. He's a retired minister from Mile High. It's called This Life is Joy. And the chapter we just went through was called This Risk is Greatness. So we were talking about risk. And the story that Roger Teal talks about is, he said there's this guy, 55-year-old guy named Bryce Courtenay, and he got laid off. He's 55 years old, gets laid off from his job, and he thinks to himself, well, you know, I've always thought I had a couple books in me. I think this might be my opportunity to write my book. But he thought, no, I'm going to write 4 books. The first 3 books are going to be the warm-ups, and the 4th one's going to change the world. That was his idea. So his first warm-up book was 1,100 pages. And he wrote it. Of course, it was a warm-up book. He didn't know what to do with it, so he put it in a shoebox and used it as a doorstop in his kitchen. A friend of his came over and said, you know, you wrote this 1,100-page book. Why don't you just give it to some agent, ask him to see if he can get it published? Well, yeah, why not? So even though it's just a warm-up book. So he gives it to an agent, and it gets published, and it becomes the most popular book ever written by an Australian author. This doorstop book, this warm-up book. And the book is called The Power of One. I looked it up. I think I'll order it. It looks like a good book. I think it's about an orphan kid in World War II or something, get sent off to an orphanage and really has to go through some challenges, et cetera, et cetera. And there's also a movie called The Power of One, and I tried to find that on all my many channels, and I couldn't figure it out, but I'll get to that too. And this other thing, Bryce Courtenay says, he says, before you die, you have to dare your genius to walk the wildest and unknown way. You know, he gets laid off at 55, and does he go home and get drunk and say life's over and life is cruel? No. He says, oh, I guess I'm an author now. I'm going to write these 3 warm-up books. And so Teal goes on to say, what's your genius? What's latent within you seeking to get out? What good questions to ask ourselves. What is your soul's sincere desire? Do we ever think about this, or do we think about this enough? What's percolating in here that we might need to listen to? Isn't it time to give this seed of possibility full permission to take root and grow? Don't worry about what others think or say. Be bold, be decisive. I love another statement by Courtenay. Teal says, Courtenay, if you're going to skate on thin ice, tap dance, and go down in style. So that's about risk taking. So what is the one thing you can do to seize the day? And this can be your homework for the week if you want to do this. And I would say, let's think about this every day. What can I do today? The thing that I thought about is every day I can make a point to be grateful. What a difference that makes. Absolute, nothing has to change if I decide I'm just going to shift gears, because if we're grateful, we can't be fearful. If we're grateful, we can't be resentful. If we're grateful, we can't be worried. Why not? Make a decision to be grateful. The other thing for me is I can decide to enjoy life. I can decide to have lightness of heart. lightness of heart. It's like my friend Diana, who, a practitioner that moved to Arizona, she told us, and it stuck with us, so many of us. She said she had a friend and that she worked with, and whenever she'd say, "How you doing, John?" he'd say, "Diana, life is so easy for me." How great is that? What a great attitude. And we can, by our thinking, we can change our thinking, we can change our life. So I invite you to think about that. Think about what can I do to seize the day every day this week. So with that, I also invite you to take a deep breath, and I will do a spiritual mind treatment, as I think I've finished all my pages now. If I find another one, I'll let you know. So let's just take a deep breath, sink in your chair where you're sitting, and just know there's nowhere else to be, nothing else to do at this moment. And I know there is but one power in the universe, and that power is a power of peace and joy and love and goodness and balance. That is the power that has the perfect solution to any perceived dilemma in my life. I am one with it. It experiences life in, through, and as me. And even though there are times that I forget to live like I am dying, sometimes I can get caught up in the pettiness of the day. Sometimes I forget what a power is available to me. Even though all that, I now declare that I lean on this inner compass, that perfect power within. I let my light shine. I'm courageous enough to live with purpose. I seize the day. I embrace my passion, my purpose, and step into my power. Just claim all this stuff. I discover my work, and with my heart, give it my all. I consider what I'm saying yes to, and I take a page out of Tim McGraw's book and learn to live like I was dying. Love deeper, speak sweeter, make my life count, do what is for me to do. And I'm grateful that this is the way life works. This is how the law works. My word spoken into law, and it is done unto me as I believe. I am grateful for that, and I release these words now to that beneficent conspiracy to do the work. And so it is.